Dances of Us shares the journeys of dancers and communities from underrepresented backgrounds. Each episode highlights how movement becomes a language of identity, memory, resistance, and hope. Hello, my name is Lerna and I am the host of Dances of Us podcast. Hi, today we are together with Tatyana Tenenbaum. Tatyana's work employs breath, voice, fascia, and musculature to excavate spaces of memory, power, and transformation. Her Jewish ancestors wove their voices literally and metaphorically in the tuneful stories of Broadway stage. She arose from this lineage while grappling with the lived residues of American violence, buried in its form, feeling, and pleasure. Her work sits at the junction of experimental music and dance, has been described as rich polyphony by The New Yorker, and transcending the fraught history between utterance and stance through an exciting inquiry by critical correspondence. Tatyana is joining our program today from Philadelphia, which was the homeland of Lenape people. She is in a white painted room with dark brown hair, brown eyes, and dark gray top. Hello, Tatyana. Welcome to Dances of Us podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I was willing to invite you to this podcast because I want people know more about your productions, your creations, your philosophy, your intentions while you are making your art, whether in music and dance, because you are approaching to both in an experimental way. So now we will go to more details of them. And I want to start with my first question. So can you tell us about your earliest memories of dance?
Yes. I think my earliest memories of dance are ecstatically moving as a young child, being in the joy of dancing to any music. My parents told me that I loved to dance and move, and any adult parties that they had whenever there was music on, I remember being just shorter than everyone else, just like completely losing myself and spinning and moving and moving and being joyful. And that's a very early memory for me. And for a number of reasons, I wasn't encouraged to study dance at a young age.
Yeah.
I think that my mom had some of her own body issues that she was trying to protect me from, her own kind of healing journey. And so I was very encouraged to pursue music instead. And so then I would add another early movement memory is being in partnership with a piano. I don't know if it was my piano or a friend's piano, but I would write music, and I remember the energy moving through my fingers, but like coming through my entire body the way I would in an improvisational score, and just kind of like it goes here and then it goes here and it's like this, and I would summon the song and I would perform it, and it would be completely improvised, but it would also be a piece of music that like a dance basically. So I think being with the piano and like moving from my center through my fingers into the keys is also an early movement memory for me.
And how then dance become a language or refuge for you in your journey?
So I became interested in dance in high school. I started kind of realizing that I wanted to include more of my body in a practice, because at that point I was really identifying as a musician and writing music and having a very fulfilling embodied relationship to music, but I wanted more movement with my body. And at that point, it was pretty challenging to find entryways to dance that were not requiring a ballet background. And
Mm.
so I basically it took me until going to college where I was studying music in a music conservatory setting, but I also was in a dual program with a liberal arts program at Oberlin College. And they had a very, very welcoming dance department there. And you didn't have to have any background, and they were very open. And I I was in this very rigorous music program on one side, and that really began to kind of like shut down dimensionality in my body, and we were actually discouraged from writing at at our instruments
Yeah.
because our instruments had our patterns, had our and our professors were trying to encourage us to think outside the box and to actually kind of like cerebrally interrupt our embodied knowing of music. And I
Yeah.
don't think that's wrong as like an exercise, but I think it had an effect of trauma on me and actually many of my classmates I've talked to since. And I was in my sophomore year and I was really struggling, and I was thinking about a piece of music I was trying to write, and I closed my eyes and was imagining the gesture, but instead I just saw my body moving. And I was like, I had this revelation. I was like, I need to dance. I really need to dance. And I decided to also be a dance major with basically no experience. And I was very fortunate to have a professor named Delisa Rosasco who um, was an improvisation teacher among other things. And she really nurtured me and encouraged me. And dance became my refuge of really not necessarily having a sense of differentiation yet in my body, but again, channeling that sort of like inner image based textural instincts and understanding a lot about composition. And so I became someone who really was adept at like making improvisational choices and in relationship to other movers, and that kind of way of connecting
Yeah.
energetically was became my refuge.
Coming from music composition and also dive into a dance and then composing the moments, maybe instant composition with improvisation, how dance and music emerge, the dance and music composition emerge to each other in your body.
Yeah. So at first I was just really excited about moving, and it felt like jumping off of the edge of the cliff into the unknown, and it just was amazing. And so I began um, playing with musicians with my body. So it began as me as another performer, instrumentalist, except it was just movement in sort of experimental music settings. And um, so there was no voice in that time. It was just
Yeah.
movement, but in relationship to other sound. And looking back, it was sort of like inevitable that I would come to my voice, but it took me years because I think that trauma kind of bifurcated me. And so um yeah, it was several years and moving to New York, and I was organizing these improvisational nights at a venue called The Tank where I would bring in dancers and musicians, and they would meet that night and I would create a score and it would be performance, and that happened for about 2.5 years. So it was kind of creating a space for these two languages to meet. And then it was time for me to make work, and I don't know, I just instinctively started to add singing to my dances. And every dance I made, the singing became the desire for the singing to become more and more integrated into my my muscular skeletal expression and connected to my breath. I think breath was really the meeting point because I noticed the way that different kinds of singing would actually allow me to move in different ways and sort of the way my diaphragm was and my breath was being activated. So it was really a decade of like of research and research with other people. That was really important was having some really important collaborators who I'll name. Laurel Snyder and Emily Moore are two
Mm.
people that I spent years and years with hands-on exploration, shaking and compressing, and really examining the way that different sounds sort of like moved in spiral pathways um, and how we could integrate that into the action of breathing and moving simultaneously.
Yes. And in your performances, what you mean by singing? Were you playing with the words and using the words more, or it was like more sounding and abstract
Yeah.
sounding and filling the space with the frequencies?
Yeah, it's both. It's both. So um, I am interested in the continuum between I call it sensual language. So the continuum between sound and language construction. I think I noticed early on that um, words, the way that meaning making can really, words can really dominate or really lead. I was interested in how to balance all of the different modalities of perception in a
Yeah.
space. So if I used a word, it was that word was explored in its entirety of sound and really, I think, slowed down in a way which it's interesting. I'm actually in the Feldenkrais method training right now, and it's a lot about doing things slowly and intentionally so that our neural pathways can sort of like relearn. And so I think instinctively my approach to words was to really go into the sounding and the shape of the words so that and the cadence so that I could easily slide into sound from the words. And so that there would be kind of a seamless blending from language to more abstract sound. And that's something that I've had in all of my works, where I
Mm-hmm.
like to hold those in the same space and kind of surprise people of where the transition comes.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then this approach naturally connect with the Feldenkrais in
Yeah.
harmony. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. It is very interesting that normally in our art lives, sometimes we are not, mostly we are not aware of it, but we are making our thresholds to the next stages. And I'm hearing this in your experience too.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, what cultural or ancestral lineage informs your movement?
Yeah. Well, I am a Jewish person, and I'm an Ashkenazi Jew. So my people are from Eastern Europe, from that sort of Pale of Settlement area that where Jews were allowed to live for a certain period of time. That is actually touching many nation states now.
Yes,
And my family came to the U.S. Um,
yeah,
uh, around the turn of the century. So that experience of assimilation to
yes.
American culture and to becoming white is a part of my embodied my embodied expression and something I've thought a lot about and the way in which there is a sort of um, fear of being called out, fear of being figured out, seen, like wanting to conform, wanting to um, fit in. And I think that's probably not unique to Jewish assimilation, but there's something about the particular history of fear in our bodies from other sorts of persecution that get mixed into this um, experience, and also then taking on the entitlement of whiteness. And so it's this kind of like mixed. um, mixed kind of fear and confidence, and I hold all of that in my body, and that's something that I've really thought a lot about and have been working somatically with over the years.
Y- Yes, let's a little bit go deeper in this
Yeah.
because I think what you describe is through your ancestors, you get this heritage of being accepted in a such a in a form or cultural representation. And this is coming to us now, always with mostly with the whiteness. In this point, I want to ask you this question: how colonialism, migration, displacement, or misplacement shape your dance story?
My family, and I don't think it's unique to my Jewish family, had a very strong relationship to musical theater, and I have a sort of more immediate family connection. My grandfather was a Broadway producer and sort of worked his way up from stage managing and just sort of in a land before time. I feel like I have to explain this when I say Broadway. I don't mean the like corporate Broadway of now. I mean like a
Yes,
different time. He was who the people he touched. It was a different kind of age of that musical theater, sort of like golden era. Um, and you know and again connected to this experience of like becoming American, but the secularism, like the theater became almost a religious space for my family. It became almost like a temple, a synagogue, and a and I have done a lot of the reclamation work in my generation to actually learn and read Hebrew and learn how to chant Torah and again some of these like embodied musicalities that come from my people. But at that generation, they were really rejecting that, and so they were building this other thing, and it was very joyful for them, and it was a way of participating in this project, in this nation building project, and um, there was a lot of blindness in that, but there was a lot of like sincere joy and permission in that space to like actually feel feelings where maybe in the rest of life those feelings had been very suppressed. So
mhm,
I think um, colonialism affects everyone and affects the way in which my family um, really got funneled into participating in the reification of this American fantasy dream, this idea of righteousness, this like erasure of many, many truths and violent histories. Um, yeah.
Um, you mentioned about the golden age of the Broadway. When was it approximately, like 1940s to 50s, or like want to little
Yeah,
bit
maybe
clarify?
I'm like it's I don't know if I can really claim that
Mhm.
that way, but my grandfather, the like folklore is that he once sang for Cole Porter. So like he as like a when he was in college or something, he decided to not become a performer, but become a behind the scenes person. But he was sort of peaking in his career in the early 80s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And through your expression, I'm understanding that why they were on the Broadway shows, and they were actually reshaping their how to express their joy in relation to their traditions and religion, but maybe more in a secular world
Yeah.
and in a way uh, to be harmonized with the American ideal American world. Am I
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So my next question will be, what does your body carry that history books do not have?
I mean, I've thought a lot about notation. When I was in college, I was thinking a lot about the relationship between notation and improvisation and sort of like what what is written down versus what art is and carries. And for me, the I was just talking to someone about this, but the quality of liveness, um, that cannot be written down. And I mean, that's what we can't. History is um, concerned with narrative in a certain kind of way, but I think liveness is concerned with dreaming and intergenerational memories and healing and time travel. And those are some of the things that I'm working with now. And yeah.
Mm. Thanks for sharing this expanded explanation. Yes, the liveliness, the sensuality of liveliness is hard to find in history books. You're right. In what ways does your dance resist forgetting?
I love that question. It's interesting because I developed this way to make a living as a videographer of dance, performance videographer. So it's all about, documentation. But traditionally for me in the studio, I would resist doing a lot of filming because it felt like when I filmed, that was actually sacred and that I don't want to have to go through all of those archives. I don't want to have to live in the past in that way. Um, but the body memory is something that's very real, and especially when I have worked with more set song material, which going back to those collaborators I named, Laurel and Emily, we really for many, many years I worked with them on some pieces of material. And I remember just we never at a certain we wouldn't like check the pitch externally. We would locate it in our spines, and I would go back and it was so consistent. We would just the way the music was not I wouldn't call it perfect pitch, but the way it was located so deeply in our bodies, and that's how we tuned to each other. um yeah, I think I'd like to orient a little more in that direction rather than having these external records. It goes
Mhm.
back to liveness, but um, yeah, to know something in your bones in that way.
Yeah, yeah. Again, the bodily wisdom, connecting with bodily wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever felt othered in your field or practice? And if you felt, how this shaped your expression?
Yes. Well, I going back to college, that really difficult time as higher education
In terms
process.
of what, like the programs, curriculums, or the
Yeah.
approach of the trainers?
Yeah, so I was the only cis woman in my year in my class of composition majors at all. Like, and also I didn't even start in the program, which means they had admitted an entire freshman class of composers with no women at all, and that was just okay for them. And all the professors were men as well.
Okay.
So, um, you can imagine how that felt in my body. And I don't think I had the words, I don't think I had the language, but um, that was extremely challenging just on the level of approaches to thinking and yeah, just feeling like I had this like I had to conform in this way to a masculine like modality of thinking, and it had a lot of consequences. And then sort of also informed my decision to sort of shift gears and go into the dance world later, which is
Mhm.
by no means perfect and free of sexism, but or other isms. But I think really wanting to be in a space where I didn't feel frankly objectified. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So this experience took you to different places and actually richer your experience maybe with the
Yeah.
different fields, with the collaborating with different fields of art. Tatyana, you become the director of the movie. It's a dance movie, and it's a collaboration with your colleague Hadar Ahura. And this movie is based on Jewish and Palestinian dance artists who are living in New York. And it's not easy to make a movie, to shoot a movie, and then the editing, and then the touring of the movie. Um, so I just want to ask you, what does it mean visibility for you, and some information about your movie and visibility in relation to the movie as well, if you compare with being just a dancer
Yeah.
visibility.
Yeah. So this is a project that grew, this film, Everything You Have Is Yours. It grew very organically from all of the things I've talked about so far. Hadar and I were both examining our Jewish lineages and relationship to assimilation. Her family lineage in Palestine in the 1930s, and her family's relationship to Zionism and founding the State of Israel, and my family's relationship to, you know, the nation state of the US. The first time Donald Trump was elected, I was feeling the power of my camera to just like share a little more broadly and this liveness and this very subversive work that we do as dance artists to deconstruct these embodied lineages of oppression, but like in these ways that are not didactic but are felt. And this was really important work, and it felt even more important in that moment. And of course, today is no different. And so I just really felt a mandate to take our dialogue and my witnessing of her journey into a form that could live longer and be shared with more people. So I asked if I could film her process, and I didn't know it would become a feature film, but it grew and grew and grew, and the relational questions it was asking also grew and grew, and years into the project, and sort of I was asked, the film took me to task to then reach out to a Palestinian American dance group based in New York, and also asked to film with them. And so building this sort of tapestry of relationships and questions around cultural appropriation and identity and place, and healing, that the film embodies, that that is what that project became. And it actually premiered a little over a year ago and has been touring the US, and also a bit, it also has screened in Germany a few times, which is incredibly meaningful because Germany is very repressive to any criticisms of Israel.
Yeah.
Very repressive. So it's very meaningful that we had organizers there who made the screenings happen. And the film has been really received very well, which is surprising and unsurprising. Like, I think we were bracing ourselves for having to defend ourselves, perhaps from like the left and the right. But I think because, again, the film comes to these very highly charged political questions through the lens of embodiment, and actually requires the audience to like move in and do a little bit of self-work. I think it sort of avoids being pigeonholed in a way where people can sort of not do a lot of critical, reflective work and then just say, you're wrong, you're wrong. And I think it's poetic. And so it's something I'm very proud of. And Hadar's work is very powerful. And I think the way that we were able to work together and create the film, um, yeah, is something I'm proud of. And I hope that listeners to your podcast will follow the work. You can go to the website. It's everythingyouhaveisyours.film.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see the upcoming screenings.
Yeah. And how do you feel about the visibility, like being visible as a dancer and in a performance, and then being visible with your movie, like many times because you are not there physically and somewhere
Mhm.
in the world people are watching this movie. How is the sense of
Mhm.
visibility in both for you?
I think I'll answer this question to talk about like disciplinarity and um, I think I didn't. This was a project I was felt called a deep calling to do, and I followed my curiosity into it. I didn't say, "Oh, I would like to be a filmmaker now," and um, so and now I really would like to make dances again and make music. So I think the visibility, I would like people to see art more holistically. I would like people to see all of the embodied layers of the film and the relational layers of the film. And I think they do, and understand that this is also an extension of dance, of music. There's actually a really gorgeous score in the film by Avi Amon, who is a Turkish American composer. Um, and and he adds another gorgeous layer to the film. And so yeah, it's really about collaboration. And I've struggled a little bit like knowing how to like play the games of different industries, but like really just wanting to be an artist with a capital A, where I get to, yeah, make what matters, and it can take what form. So um yeah, I wish people the expansive imagination to see art as something beyond its lane.
Yes, I can hear you, definitely. And as a dancer, how is your connection with the land? Do you get any inspiration or collaboration with the land, with ecology?
Yes, absolutely. I worked for several years with really profound mentor, choreographer Jennifer Monson. Her organization is also called iLand, and it's an interdisciplinary laboratory for art and dance. I think that's what it stands for. So I did a lot of thinking about and dancing on literal land and working with archive of dancing on land. And I think if I was already oriented this way, but it really working with her really helped me understand that no space is, neutral, and also working with people and how we set up our sensitivity to space and build that memory over time. And I also worked with a choreographer named Emily Johnson,
Yeah,
who's of Yupik descent, and she is based in New York City in Lenapehoking, and that work was very profound for me. I did two productions with her. One was an overnight performance on Randall's Island, where she had a number of Indigenous leaders um, sort of leading different things over the course of like an all-night uh, camp out on the island. And there was also sort of a choreographed performance that she led. And that experience profoundly influenced my relationship to land and being a I guess, being a visitor, being a guest, like ancestrally, and at the
yes,
same time that I do feel rooted, and I do have a lineage of family who came to New York City and really made their lives there. So I think, and I recently moved to Philadelphia, so that's a new anchor for me. So I think I'm just thinking a lot about how building relationship with land takes time and um, intentionality, and yeah.
And during these experiences with the land, did you also have any connection with more than human world in your performance, in your researches, in your improvisations?
Yeah. I've been really orienting in that direction in the last few years. I'm thinking particularly, it's not exactly land, but one of the last uh, group performances I did before the pandemic was a work called Title, which happened at Dance Space Project, and it was sort of the culmination of like a many years working with a sort of similar ensemble of people, and I'd had like pretty amazing sort of run of institutional support, which I'm just naming, like allowed me to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, from movement research and dance space project, and sort of yeah, nurtured me for a period of time, which I'm very grateful for. And in this sort of in this performance, it was a 30-minute piece. I really just like something had shifted in me, and I really like let myself go and like channel deeper than I ever had before. I think it was a place I was moving towards. But I really did it in the performance, and I think I just felt my awareness so decentralized in this way that um, connected me to the cosmos, connected me to ancestors, connected me to place in like I was speechless afterwards. It was, and I had to do a talk back, and that was very hard. But I yeah, I think more and more I'm orienting towards the way in which our bodies are historically the connection point to the more than human world, and the everything, the like connectivity. That's why our bodies have been policed, because they are too powerful. So I am looking towards that as a North Star, yeah, to as I move forward.
Yes. In your words, especially decentralizing touch my heart. Because in our normal lives, with the mainstream media and social media, it's so easy to take everything personal and think it's all about me.
Yeah.
But actually, when you go out of that focus and widen your lens and neutralize yourself and really decentralize, then you are getting in touch with a reality beyond what some people or centers or politicians are imposing to you. And I think this is the place where we can also hear each other again, where the nonviolent communication might happen, where the mind and heart connection can flourish and the body connection too. So thanks for sharing this word. And what would you like younger generations to remember or reimagine?
I think it comes down to this thing I mentioned about slowness, and what you were just talking about in terms of this pace, this grueling, this perspective, and also pace that gets sort of put on us. And um, yeah, I just hope that younger generations know that they can go slowly, that opportunities will be there in the right time, and that you may not have everything you want in the time that you want it, but there's an embodied logic that you have to tap into, and yeah, and just to take care of one another, and not to get sort of to resist the very strong urge that capitalism puts us towards, towards getting in these silos, and like you said, me, like I will succeed when I succeed, because it's actually about us, and it's about we, and we have to do it together. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to collaboration. So, I may not have pursued, when I think of my career, I may not have like pushed as hard as I could have in some lanes, but it didn't feel authentic to me. So, yeah.
How do you share your practice with others?
So I have a teaching practice that has grown alongside my creative practice, and that is about um, vibration and integration, some of the things I
Mhm.
spoke about earlier, and researching these within our own bodies, but also through touch and sort of collective listening, and also holding this field of like harmony and dissonance together. So that is something that I love sharing, and I currently teach at Movement Research, which is in New York City, and I'm on
Yeah.
rotating faculty for the Sounding Body series, which is something that I helped to found there with Peter Shisholi and Payeng Threadgill. So that is something I'm proud of. We thought about forms like contact improvisation, and that you kind of go to wherever your city and you look for the community. And so we thought like, well, can we create something for embodied voice that is also collective again? So it's not just about my approach, but like we have a rotating faculty. And so I think that's a way in which I'm sharing my practice by creating that space of interdisciplinarity and integration. And I think I've seen over the years
Mhm.
dance move in the direction of voice, like wholesale, whole full stop. And I think that's because of its power to integrate. So that's,
Yes,
yeah.
that sounds so nice because I think people and also dancers need this kind of structured, safe, and alternative practices in case to widen their expression, creativity, and the connection to their bodies, to surroundings, to world and the universe. So I think we will have all these related web pages under this episode, and will be ready to be shared with more people. I hope so. Also about your movie and the teaching practice and your webpage, everything. Okay, I think we come to our last question. If you could design a world where your dance was fully seen and valued, what would your dance or choreography would look like?
Hmm. Wow. It's so hard. It's connected to dance being a form of resistance, right? Because so to imagine yes,
I mean,
without
you are actually free to make any connection. It can be related to a resistance, dance as a resistance. It can be related for you to dance as a joy. I think it's about what you really signify in that dance and choreography.
I just crave more time to be in practice, more studio time, and to be in questions, and then to yeah, what would it mean if we didn't have to kind of like carve out those schedules and then fight for our opportunities to show and share, but if that was just part of the fabric of culture, that we go, and just like anything else, we go to work and we go to the studio, and then it's time to share at some point. So I think in an ideal world, yeah, the work could be an offering in that way, and um, it would have a lot of song, and it would have I've been working toward mostly like front is gone for me because sound doesn't work that way. So it would be many-sided, and there would be the audience would have could be, in the I think witnessing is a sacred thing, but also there as a bit of a porousness.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I'm not sure what that is. It's something I'm curious about, but yeah, what does it mean to also be accountable as an audience, and where it's not this passive thing like on our phones where we can press stop, and so again, like how does what is this two-way contract? And um, yeah.
Yeah, what is that shared practice
Yes.
somehow? Yeah. Okay, Tatyana, thank you very much for your time and your participation. And I wish you the best for your career, for your dance and the dance movie. I hope we can see more in different locations in the world because I think it is something the world needs now to see more dancing people, dancing neighbors together.
Thank you, Lerna, for having me on this podcast and for doing this labor for the community. It's really important.
Thank you for appreciating.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Dances of Us podcast. I hope you enjoyed our time together. Before we close, take a moment to check in with your body. How do you feel right now? Which parts wanted to move? Remember, the body holds stories, and it has the power to transform them too. I'm your host, Lerna Babikyan. Take care and see you next time.